Hey, thanks for joining me today. We are finding out today, should you be lifting heavier weights? And the short answer is yes. And there's some caveats to that we're going to talk about, but we are going to look today at 7 reasons that you should be lifting heavier and their positive effects that you're going to have as you incorporate that into your workout routine. Now, a lot of times people have thought, well, kind of heavy lifting is for power lifters or it's for bodybuilders. I'm just everyday kind of getting back in the gym. Maybe I'm in my 40s, 50s, whatever it is. But guess what? It applies for you as well. So let's start to break this down and understand some things. So, number one, lifting heavier helps to build strength faster. Now, you might not be training specifically for strength, but the importance of that is you're going to need more muscle fiber activation for the building of strength. And so that's what happens as we're lifting heavier. And we also have better adaptions in our body, neuromuscular adaptions. And we're going to talk about the joints and things like that too. But as we train heavier. And the other thing about training heavier is it stimulates type 2 muscle fibers. So those are the muscle fibers, the fast twitch muscle fibers that are responsible for power, explosive force, and those kind of things. So you might say, what's the relevance of that for me? I'm not, going to go out and play football or where I need the explosive power. But those same muscle fibers are the ones that get engaged for getting out of chairs as we age, as carrying in groceries. So it just helps with athletic performance, but it helps improve overall strength for everyday performance of everyday activities. All right. Number two, it helps increase muscle mass. So heavy lifting creates more tension. And so obviously that's a major factor in muscle growth. And so the other part of that is type 2 muscle fibers, which are going to be more activated by the heavy lifting, are more prone to hypertrophy, which is the growth of muscle. Now, we have talked about this a lot on this channel, that the whole point of adding muscle and growing and adding muscle as we age is so that we can age gracefully, so that we can, whether it's playing with your grandkids or just getting out with your kids and having some fun with them. But it's important that we understand that. And progressive overload, it's easier with heavier weights. So as opposed to just doing a whole bunch of reps with light weights. Because what tends to happen if we get a lighter weight and we're just doing a whole bunch of reps, we'll fail from a cardiovascular point of view before we get to muscle failure or optimal muscle activation. Okay, so training heavier prevents then us getting into a premature fatigue state because of the cardiovascular part. All right, number three, and this one is huge, it strengthens bones and connective tissues. Obviously, as we age, these are vital things, right? A lot of what we think of as aging when it comes to our bones and connective tissue and things like that, some of that is just lack of use, right? Bone density will go down as we don't put strain on our body. So that's obviously going to help. The heavy lifting signals our body to produce more bone mass and to increase bone density. Now, we're going to continue on about the joints, but it helps with osteoporosis and preventing osteoporosis across all age groups. So it's important there. It's also important now for the joints, the stabilizer muscles, the ligaments, and all of those things. Now, here's one thing I will say to that, and we're going to talk about having proper form, but you can overdo it so it's too hard on your joints, okay? So proper form, and we're going to talk about progressive resistance so that we have the right weight for what it is we're trying to do, and we're not going to end up, getting hurt in the gym. All right. Number four, it boosts hormone profile, or more specifically, we get a testosterone boost from lifting heavy, So there's an increase in testosterone, there's an increase in growth hormone being produced, and by extension then, an increase in protein synthesis. That's the uptake of protein for our bodies and our muscles to use to grow. and it enhances fat metabolism, so you get better body composition. So you're going to have less fat, more muscle, and you're ultimately going to have a better response from lifting heavier than with light weights. Okay. Number 5, it improves functional strength. So we talked about this a little bit in number 1, but really we could say it translates into real world strength improvements and making everyday tasks easier. And certainly with sports, it'll make your sporting activities easier. I had a friend of mine that came to me and said, look, I'm playing soccer and I want to improve in my soccer skills. So, we worked out a program for him that involved some heavy lifting so that he could have more explosive power on the pitch and different things like that. But you whether you're playing sports or not, it's still going to help you, the heavy lifting, with maintaining mobility as we age, with strengthening our core, and getting, as a result of that, we should have better posture and less risk of injury. So, and those are huge things as we age. Number 6, it increases our metabolic rate and our fat burn, because here's what happens. Our body is responding to the heavy lifting by adding muscle, as we're having enough calories and those things as well, and protein, and we've talked about that. But as our muscle increases, muscle is more metabolically active than fat. So at rest, now we are burning more calories. So our resting metabolic rate actually gets boosted up as we add the muscle, and we get excess post-exercise oxygen consumption from the heavy lifting. So we're also then boosting our metabolism for hours after we're done the training. So, number 7, this is a good one. It increases mental toughness and confidence. There's something to when you have to get under a heavy weight or push a heavy weight, and you just have to grit your teeth or grind it out and push out the weight. I'll give you an example. My daughter is just starting to, work out now, and she's a teenager, so I'm very aware of, the limits and all those things. But so she's starting to work out now, and we were doing some weights where she said, Dad, this is really heavy for me. And it wasn't really, but here's the thing. I said, your form is perfect. You're right under control. Everything is under control. Now you just get to push this out. And what she thought was going to be too heavy, she ended up doing like 5-6 more reps after. But what it did was it galvanized her to say, wait a minute, I can do this. So there's a mental toughness that comes just with being able to say, hey, I pushed through this physical challenge. I did it. I made it. So that's number 7. Now, a couple of things, just some safety tips if we're talking about heavy lifting, okay? Heavy lifting is relative, okay? What's heavy for me might not be heavy for you, or vice versa. So when we talk about heavy lifting, we're talking about a weight that you can get to maybe 2 reps left before you fail, somewhere in the 6 to 10, 6 to 12 rep range, ideally 8 to 12 rep range, that you're going to fail somewhere in, you hit 10 reps and boy, if I did another 2, I don't think I'm getting out of here, getting through another set. So that's an appropriate weight for you. That weight has nothing to do with what anybody else is doing in the gym. And so we understand we don't want to get involved in ego lifting, where, what happens with ego lifting, we start sacrificing form so that we can lift a heavier weight. We start, maybe we're swinging the weight, maybe I've done it all, trust me. And I've gotten injuries over the years as a result, to prove that that's not a good idea. So make sure your form is right on track. Number 2 is use a spotter where necessary. Or if you're doing, let's say you're using the Smith machine for something, make sure you have the catches set at an appropriate weight so that if you do fail, you can get out without getting injured, okay? That one's really important. What else? Make sure that you warm up. Don't go right to the heavy weight, because you're going to be more inclined to injure, especially ligaments and joints that haven't warmed up. They need to warm up. They need to get ready for the heavy lift and get on track with it. So what about progress? So you should be trying to add, maybe it's another rep, maybe it's just a little more intensity, maybe it's a little bit more weight from week to week. Maybe it takes a couple of weeks for you to go up a couple of reps or to go up a few pounds or whatever it might be. But have that in mind. I'm trying to improve my weight or my intensity, on a regular basis. So the other thing is balancing the heavy lifting with also the mobility work, right? So that we're making sure we're maintaining our flexibility and our mobility, and keeping our whole body healthy. So, for me, that's when I have to work on is the whole stretching and flexibility kind of thing, because I just, I'm just going to be honest. I don't feel like it at the end of a workout sometimes. I'm done the workout. I want to get on to what cardio I do and head for home, because I have, breakfast and responsibilities with my daughter and things like that. So, figure out what works best for you for that. But let's back up and understand something. What about incorporating heavy lifting into your workout regime? It should certainly be part of your training. However, if there's a pre-existing health issue that you have a conversation with your doctor about that. Okay. One way that you can train heavy without training heavy, you'll know what I mean, is you can pre-exhaust the muscle. So you can do an exercise. So for example, you could be doing chest, and you can do flies or cables or pec deck to pre-exhaust your chest before you get to inclines or bench or whatever your main pushing exercise is. So it's a vital part to include in our workout, but there are ways to work around it. If you have injury issues, again, like I said, talk to your doctor about that and how do we manage around those injuries. And again, to avoid injury, make sure good form, a progressive overload. In other words, don't just whack on a whole bunch of weight, just increase gradually, okay? And make sure that you're taking the time to do it right, and you're not there to compete with anybody else at the gym, right? We're all in this together to get better, to get stronger, to be able to be more active as we age with our family, and also to look better, right? As we add more muscle, we're going to look better as well. So thank you for joining me today. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. That'll help us out, and we'll see you next time.